Well, hi, good morning. It's May 26th. It's been quite a few days since I posted a video, but I have been in here fiddling with this radio, mostly checking out its performance. And I've reached the conclusion that its performance is really very good. It raises the question why I should do any more work on the receiver. So I'm going to set the receiver aside, and I'm going to bring in the record player and spend my morning fixing up the record player. It's a very nice record player in this console. I think it's a Calero. And here it is. It's not a Calero. It's a Telefunken, same manufacturer as the whole console, excuse me. And it looks great. This was quite a challenge to get this out of the console. I had to take the back off the console, and there had to be 25 screws holding the back on. Oh my gosh. 4 speeds. Those 3 of them are in red, 1 is in black. You see that on the camera? That's a hint. That would be a hint. These are red, and this is black. It may not be so obvious on the camera. Pretty obvious to the eye. Got a flip needle. This tips up all the way. That's fantastic. So I can see the needle is already out of place here. The needle's been knocked asunder. Let's take a look at that. We want to find out pretty quick if there's a damaged needle. Now, can you see the needle is pushed off to the right? Just above my finger is an orange piece that the needle should be riding in, and it's actually off around the far side of it. Let's see if I can get a closer look at this here. Just going to adjust the focus on the camera. Okay, this ought to do the trick here. So you see the orange piece, you can see obviously that's where the needle should be riding, and somehow it's been knocked right over. I got caught under it. And if it's been sitting like this for years and years, it might be permanently like that. Let's try and reset it here. Oh no. Oh man. Well, that's really, really questionable. Very, very questionable about how well this one's going to work. Oh boy. Well, not looking too good. So the part that's pointing down right now, let's just see what's pointing down. If you can just read the top of that. Come on. I believe it says 78. So the needle that's pointing downwards is the 78 needle. Now we have to clean this up and look at it under a microscope, but it doesn't look good to me. The pointing up needle looks practically brand new. A little surprising this would be on 78. It's always possible that people didn't realize what that was all about, and that there's 2 needles in here, and it's been run on the 78 needle the entire time. Who knows? I don't know. Probably hasn't played a record in decades, though. That's probably the real truth of it. So if we're lucky, the other needle, the non-78 needle, will be good. The micro groove needle. Okay, that's a little too bad. Just a quick check of things here. Certainly feels like everything's in good shape. This is partway through its process. Let's finish it off here. Oh, this is really hard to turn. There's no way the motor can do this. Wow. It's a stiff one, but we want to get it to the off position here. That's not going off. Why is it not going off? It should have gone off. Okay, and it should also release. That was the release there, that little click. So look at, so this is released. Sounds like a micro switch operating. Okay. Oh, what happened there? Something not too good just happened, I think. There. Oh my gosh, it's unbelievably tough. Wow. No records have been played on this thing for a long time. I'm pretty sure of that. Let's see if it'll shut off. This arm is down, so the unit should shut itself off. Should just set down and shut off. Okay, looks like it's going to set down, and click. That was it. This has come loose. Still something funny in there. You can't hear it or see it, but there's a bump, 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 bump as I'm turning this. Very strange feeling. Feels like magnets going by each other. Maybe it's something to do with the motor. Okay, that little assessment's done. Let's just lift this up. Oh, this is as stiff as a board. I think this is supposed to be flexible, isn't it? Nice rubber surface? Maybe not, but I think if you bent this, I think it would crack right away. I get the impression. A little bend and she's done. Okay, so we have some holes here. We can actually look through these holes. Okay, so this is released right now, but before the machine was in a position where I think the intermediate wheel, you can see a bit of here, was pushed up against the capstan of the motor, which may have left a bad divot in here, but we can't really see right now. Okay, the locking ring is still in place. Let's just take a peek underneath. Clean as a whistle. But one dust bunny there. But certainly not a lot of dust anywhere. So the lubrication is still slightly, for sure in need of, yeah, most of it I think is just dried and evaporated away. Wonderfully clean. Let's just make the motor rotor rotate. Okay, it rotates fairly freely. Nothing, I don't think there's anything seriously wrong here at all. It's just a matter of doing some lubricating and getting things loose enough that the motor itself can do what I was doing with my hand here. Very good. Okay, I got to think about how to hook this up. It's come with its plug here. What am I going to do with that? I'd have to bring the receiver in here and really run it through the receiver, which maybe I will do. Maybe that's the way to do this one. Okay, time for a break. I certainly like seeing things operating before I start operating on them. So let's put some power to this guy. So power goes into this connector. have a temporary cord I'm going to put on it. What's going on there? Well, it's a flathead screw. Hey, come on. What do I expect to have happen here when I power this up? I don't know. I could barely turn this with my hand. I'm not sure what the motor's going to do with it. Okay. Hey, jackpot. Okay. No need to put the top on. So this is the start button, if you like. Okay, we're going to plug it in. It's going to go into a system where if there's a short circuit in here, which I'm sure there isn't, but if there was, I'll be protected. So you can put the power on by flipping this lever. Power is reaching here through these light bulbs. If they come on full blast, something bad is going on with this. We should see the motor start up when I flip this. Better release this. The overarm is up in the air, so the record player thinks it has records ready to drop. That's what it thinks. Here we go. This may come on right away. No. I see a full voltage sitting here, 120 volts. There's no draw on this at all. So I'm going to flip this lever. That should start it up. It'll probably make the lights come on a little bit. Let's see what happens. Hello, hello. This way. That's really laboring. So it's on speed 16. That's a slow speed. Let's put it on 33. Oh, it's just, wow, this is just like molasses on this thing. The motor is trying hard. Okay, that's enough. That's enough. That is enough. Probably all just really quite simple lubrication issues in here. So we'll start by taking the platter off. So there's a locking ring in here. A split ring. So this bearing right here that the whole platter runs on is generally not the place where you get a lot of friction buildup. You have to think about the mechanics and the forces involved. And here at the center of this great big platter is a huge amount of leverage. Where's the split? Oh, look at. There's an opportunity here. Opportunity back here to get in under it. It's exactly where I can't see. Yeah, if I can hook that, I'll pull it right up. Can I hook that? There it is. Just like that. Should have got the close-out camera sooner. Close-up camera sooner. Got up the close-out camera. Okay, let's get this ring off of here. Put it in the little cup. Now, with any luck, Platter comes right up and off. Now, what's this other piece in here? Trying to read what it says there. Well, it's just some kind of, I guess, filler spacer type thing. The important thing to observe is the gear and this piece right here. This part that's sticking out right here. You can call this the kicker we want. Okay, who's so stuck here? It can't possibly be this. This turns freely. Okay, I'll turn the motor. Motor turns freely. So it was really laboring, but I think it was trying to do the automatic operation at the same time. So the way these guys operate is the motor at a high speed drives this intermediate wheel, sometimes called the idler, but intermediate wheel would be the proper name for it. And then this runs on the inside of the record player rim. It runs on in here. And that makes it a rim drive record player. Rim drive record players have problems, traction problems. They also have a lot of rumble problems in that. One of the areas that gets into trouble is the surface of this intermediate wheel becomes very hard over time, and eventually no longer has any grip. So a way to check it is just to run the edge of your fingernail on it and just make a judgment. Does that feel like it's got no grip? And that's not the case here. It's grabbing my fingernail and just doing this. Another thing to observe is this surface shiny? Sometimes under close observation you can actually see the hard edge. Why don't we take a look and see if we can see the the belt of hardened rubber here. It kind of looks that way, doesn't it? Actually, it looks more like there's. Oh, interesting. So it looks like there's two kinds of rubber involved here. It looks like there's a surface rubber, and then this other rubber that goes on the metal wheel itself. That's a little bit unusual. That's the tire pressure there. So let's just see if we can spot a bump on this. I'm going to rotate it, and we're looking for a divot or a bump. Looks pretty good. Oh. So the bump, it's a rubber coming off. The bump would be due to leaving it for an extended period, months and years, pressed up against this spindle. Now, the way it's supposed to work is when the record player is finished playing the record and it's in its parked state, you're all done with it, this should be pulled away like this. There should be a pulling away that takes place. And this lever doesn't seem to work all that well, but the motor's not running right now, so we can't make too many judgments about stuff. This is a curious piece, don't you think? What's this doing? So, I've seen lots and lots of record players. In a general sense, there's only a few types, but specifically, almost every one is a little bit different. So I'm feeling now the spring tension. This is pulled in this direction. So it's pulled basically between the edge of the rim of the platter and this. So there's a spring range pulling it this way. In fact, I can see the spring down there, in fact. And it's got lots of pull. If the spring gets loose, then you have slippage in here and traction problems, and then automatic features won't work properly. Your tone arm will stall, especially on the lift up at the end of the record. It can't do it. But none of this explains why it was turning so slowly. So the explanation is underneath. This is locked. Okay, let me pull the plug out here. So this is the mechanism here. Down here, this geared wheel. When it's in neutral, you see the little gears here. There's a gap. There's like 4 or 5 missing teeth. There's a gap in this wheel. These teeth engage with this. Now you get this huge leverage from the motor because this rim's being driven out here. It's like a big gear. You get huge power. You need a lot of power to operate the mechanism as compared to just driving the platter around to play a record. This is as stiff as can be. So when I'm turning the platter, I'm taking by hand. I'm taking advantage of that huge leverage. And what I'm actually pushing against is this. When I try to turn this myself, it's just locked up tight. Wow. Why is it so locked up? So this wheel has a lot of intelligence stuck in it. Little things are happening as it turns around. Different things are happening. This whole piece travels a lot. This whole bracket here. You can see there's a pin sticking through here. This pin is attached to the wheel. The wheel goes around. The pin moves, causes this whole thing to move. And that's where the mechanism derives, the tone arm derives its ability to lift, move, and can go down again. It's all from this kind of stuff. But that is just as tight as can be. Like, I've never had one this tight. Wow. Holy smokes. That's really locked up. This is obviously rotating on a pin of some sort. I can see it through here. A little hard now to tell what we're looking at, but let me just fool with the focus a bit. Okay, so there's the thing in focus close to the camera is the edge of the toothed wheel. I'm looking underneath it, which is to the left of it, because the camera's sideways. We're trying to see the pivot on this wheel. Let me just work the wheel a little bit. No, I can't. Okay, that's not going to work. That's the whole problem. You can't work the wheel. So I'm trying to point with my finger to the center. The center, we can't really see it. So this thing I'm touching now is not the center shaft. That's that pin that's coming up through the slot. That's connected to the wheel. It's under this, under where my finger is now. That's where we got to be looking. Well, there's a great big piece coming up here, like looks almost like a cast metal piece. Yeah, that's lining right up with. Where's the center of this? The center of this would be roughly where my finger is. Yeah, it's lining up. So, the deal is you'd have to get some kind of lubricant in there. That's really what I'm trying to see is. Wow, that's a tough one. If this is a problem of a shaft in a sleeve, which is I think what it is, which is one of the harder things to deal with, it's also the kind of thing that really locks up stuff. The shaft in a sleeve problem. That didn't go so well. And there's nothing just feeling up above here. Well, there is something up here. Let's go back and take a look at that. This thing. This guy right here. Is that what needs to be lubricated? So it's on a, there's a little washer here, and then there's an E-clip. And if you remove that, would this shaft be the center of this wheel? I think it is. So, chance everything would fall out, but I don't think that's going to happen. Let's take it off. Take this clip off. I think this might be the lubricating opportunity here. Come on off, come on off. Too small a screwdriver. Maybe something just a little bit bigger. How about this antique one? Oh, it's way too big. Way too big. How about this super long one? There we go. Clip, washer. This is probably the bearing. This is probably this, the shaft and the sleeve, and this is probably where all the friction is happening. So this is going to take a little while. You need to put some kind of a solvent type thing in there. I think I'm going to start with alcohol. And we're just going to drip a bit of alcohol on it here. As I've said many times, I like using alcohol because it's harmless, right? It's not dangerous in any way. It all evaporates away eventually. Now, typically, to get this to work, you've got to turn the shaft. And if you turn the shaft a little wee bit, whatever solvent you put in there will immediately penetrate in. So I'm going to try to move this thing a little wee bit. There. Even a little bit is going to help. Now, is that thing moving? Let's put the losing parts. Here it is. Let's put the close-up camera and see if the shaft itself is actually moving. So I'm only turning it just a few degrees. It's a little hard to tell. I just want to verify that this really is what I think it is. Okay, we should be able to see that move. If I manage to do it. Here we go. Yeah, it's turning. There's nothing else that can be interfering with the movement. Oh, what happened there? Did I just break my fingernail? Yeah, that's all that's happening is my fingernail is chipping. Okay, so we're going to let this definitely turn. We'll let this sit for a while. The other thing which is extremely useful in this situation is heat, as in blowtorch type heat. A lot of heat. So we may want to incorporate that too. But I'm going to let this soak for a bit. I may come in and work at it a few times, and then we'll see if I get it completely loose. Okay, it's been maybe, 15 minutes or so. By now the alcohol has kind of disappeared. Well, it's moving. A little bit better, so I'm going to try WD-40. This is a combination of very thin oil and some solvents. So this is actually pretty good stuff for this kind of purpose. Get a bit of a movement here. Wow. That's coming loose. Maybe loose in a certain area, which is kind of weird. How would that ever be the case? Maybe there's something else involved here. Okay, I'm going to give that a few more minutes, do its thing. I think that wheel should be loose enough I should be able to grab the geared wheel with my hand and turn it fairly easily and not be fighting with it really at all. Okay, so it's loosened up a little more since it's been in here. I've been in a couple times to try to move this. But it's certainly not going as loose as I would expect it to. So I'm going to apply a little bit of heat. Now the objective of the heat, as I would guess, is to just loosen up the lubrication. I don't plan to burn this or anything like that. The idea is a little bit of heat. Okay, might get some smoke from the oil here. Smoke there. Okay. Yeah, I'd love to put my finger on there and see how hot I got it. Oh yeah, so this is turning much easier now. Very good. So the difficulty with this situation is the old lubricant is in there. And as much as I can kind of wake it up here with some new solvents and things like that, it's now when I'm turning this wheel too, the wheel is trying to operate the mechanism underneath here. I would imagine it's nice they cut a hole here so you can see my hand underneath. It's very handy of them. So I think there's a limit to how far I can move this wheel before I run into the mechanism, so to speak. There we are. See the tone arm starting to lift? Let's keep going. Platter turns this way. So that's going to turn the wheel this way. That's the way I'm pushing it right now. Good. Okay, let's just keep going. Oh, here's the gap. I told you there were some teeth missing. It's right here now. Wow. Still no way the motor can do this yet. Just broke my fingernail. Shit. Okay. It's not, see, the heat is gone. The heat is gone. Fingernail's broken. Using a different finger. Now it's turning nicely. That's the wrong way. We want to turn the other way. Using what's left of my thumbnail. Oh wow, I just can't move it any further. So there could be more sticky in this mechanism somewhere. Yeah, I think I'm going to let it sit for a bit. Give it some time. How about we look at this from a different point of view? Upside down. Why did it suddenly slip there? What's going on there? Trying to see what's interacting with this wheel that's changing. It's a pretty strong spring thing there. You can see the whole piece is sliding now. So down here is a ramp piece. see that properly. I think you got to come down here. You can see that this piece is ramped up. And what happens is, as the wheel turns, this whole carriage moves this way. And this ramp is pushing against a pin. You can see a pin with a spring under here. So as a ramp moves this way, it pushes the pin down. As it pushes the pin down, it lifts the tone arm up. Well, down in this case because everything's upside down. It lifts the tone arm. Often this area, which should be fairly heavily greased, is lacking in lubricant. And it's a little bit hidden. Not obvious what's going on here when you first look at it. But that's what a lot of record players have varying ways of providing this ramp type mechanism, but a lot of them use it to do exactly what I just described. Okay, is that part of what's making this thing work so hard, work so difficult? No, see, this is moving quite freely. Hard to believe that could cause a kind of I don't know to call it back pressure that I'm feeling. We're getting all the way around though. I mean, it is coming looser. And I run into this clip again. It's really pretty hard to push past it. Let's see if we can turn this into the neutral position. So I'm looking for the gap. Okay, so the gap is there. So I've got the gap positioned where the missing teeth will no longer connect to this. And that stops the mechanism. It sits there. And the platter turns around, but the gears aren't engaging. To get the mechanism going, this wheel has to be kicked forward a little bit until the teeth engage, and then the platter will drive it. Has a settling point here where it likes to settle. You know what it is? It's the shape of this spring. Crank it up here a little bit. The shape of this odd shape here has the effect of creating like an indent. So that's the neutral spot right there. I won't go into how this gets kicked forward. At the end of a record, though, it does get kicked forward. I'm still curious about whether. No, see, this is completely loose here, as it should be. It should be a little wobbly. It's just the only thing I can identify that's causing this thing to drag so much, to have so much friction, is the part I've been working on. It's getting looser and looser as we go. So as I think I was explaining earlier, but I didn't really finish the explanation. I'm not really getting the old lubricant out. The only way to do that would be to take this apart entirely and pull the shaft out of the sleeve. If it were my record player, well, maybe I would do that, but this isn't my record player. And I'm certainly extremely hesitant about doing something like that. So I think the name of the game, looks like there's still oil there. More time. Sit here. You wonder if you could flush out the old. But I have heard of people taking record players like this and immersing them in a bath of solvent like WD-40. But I think that's a little extreme. That leads to more problems. Break my fingernail again if I'm not careful. Well, let's give it another dousing just to make sure there's enough. There we are. Just a little dab will do it. A little dab will do you. Maybe if I just do this, I'll kind of pump it down in there. It's not getting any looser. It feels like it's reached the end of its looseness at this point. Uh-oh. Well, we'll let it set longer. Okay, so it's been quite a bit of time. I've been in once or twice. A little heat on it. And the like. So I'm putting this in the neutral position here. Okay, where the teeth are not present. I'm going to put the platter on. I'm going to run this thing. See what it does at this point. Okay. What are you going to do? There. Now the mechanism's released from the motor. The motor is only driving the platter. It looks fine. Very quiet. Let's see what happens if we... Check the traction by applying drag to the platter with your finger. The traction's quite good on this. I'm pushing quite hard. It's very, very good traction. So you can see that by the platter speed that it's still laboring quite a bit, trying to make this mechanism operate, but that's not too bad. I mean, that's getting there. And you might think what triggers the tone arm to lift off the record at the end and come back is the position of the tone arm, but it isn't. It's actually the speed at which the tone arm moves towards the center. Well, once you get past about say 2/3 of the playable part of the record, you're in a zone where if the tone arm should move quickly this way, it will pick up. And that's why the inside grooves on a record move the tone arm a little quicker towards the center. It's to trigger this, what's called a velocity sensor. Voila. Well, it's getting looser and looser. Very good. So I'm going to change the speed here to the slow speed 16 in the belief that there's more power. Maybe not, but let's see. I'm going to move much slower. Hard to tell now if the platter's being slowed. Doesn't look like it. Put this here. I'm going to take the speed up to 45. I believe the traction right at where the motor spindle is touching the intermediate wheel, because it gets less and less as you go up in speed, I think. Better and better. Let's try it at 78. Yeehaw! 78. Things are flying. You gotta make sure your hands aren't in the way. Things happen fast at 78. A little noise coming out of it there. Well, I let this thing drop on the platter, it's going to rip the needle right off. These holes going by. It's a little dangerous. I almost missed that. Okay, let's make it turn off. Excellent. Well, maybe not excellent, but much, much better. Okay, I'm going to give it a little bit more time to kind of soak there and play it again in a few minutes. Okay, so I'm quite convinced that this record player is going to work mechanically satisfactorily. So a couple other issues now to take a look at. They are, the cartridge, does it work? The needle, is it sharp? That's the two issues. So first thing is, does the cartridge work? So what I've done is I've just connected it with these clip leads, connected one channel from here over to my sound system you're listening to me with. And I think if I touch this, let me just flip it to stereo here. Okay. And then the other channel's over here. Good. Okay. So I just have one channel connected. Will we hear it? There we go. Oh yeah. Trying to be as gentle as I can. Let me turn up a bit. Jeez, I don't know. Dragging it right across my finger and my that crunchy sound's not what we want to hear, that's for sure. Doesn't seem like the wires are loose. I'll end up having to play a record to really find out. Cartridge is kind of bouncy too. Okay, you know what? It could even be the way I have this hooked up, come to think of it. Okay, so this is one channel. Okay, and then if I just this over here, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get the other channel. It's not shorted there. Okay, let's give it another go. It should be in the other ear now. There's definitely some weird clicks coming out of this. Okay, let's not fool around too much here. It makes sound. Can you play a record with it? We need to look at that needle first before there we go. Okay. Take another look with the camera, and then we'll take a look under the microscope and see what we can see. Where's the camera? It's way over here. LP. 78. LP means long playing, of course. So think about this now. If this were in, that would be 78. So the 78 side is now on the left. Pretty dirty. Let me just give it a quick cleanup here. Okay, so I'm going to use a little bit of alcohol and a magic eraser in a very special way. This magic eraser thing, kind of hit and miss, but let's give it a go. Okay, so I'm going to put a little alcohol, just drip right on there. And then what I do is I take the needle, might be a little hard to see on the camera. Don't drag it. No dragging of it. Now, frankly, the last time I did this, this needle, look how loose it is in the holder. Whew. It's going to fall right out. Last time I did this, I found a small brush was much better. What's that look like now? Well, it looks cleaned up. Okay, let's take a look at this under a microscope and get a good look at it.